David had driven the same country road hundreds of times. The route connected his hometown to a nearby city where he worked. After 10 years, he knew every bend, every farmhouse, and every tree that stood beside the road. That was why he noticed the house immediately. It stood alone in a field just beyond a curve in the road. A large white house with dark windows and a long gravel driveway. The strangest thing was simple. David had never seen it before. At first he assumed he had simply never paid attention. People miss things all the time. But over the next few days, the thought kept returning. How could he have missed an entire house? A week later he mentioned it to a colleague. That old white house near Blackwood Road. And this colleague frowned. What house? David explained exactly where it was, and this colleague shook his head. There isn't any house there. That answer bothered him more than it should have. So the following evening he decided to stop and take a closer look. The driveway was narrow and overgrown with weeds. As he drove slowly toward the house, he noticed there were no cars anywhere on the property. There were also no lights. No signs of life, actually. The building looked old but well maintained. The grass had recently been cut, and the windows were clean. So someone clearly took care of the place. David parked near the front porch and stepped out of the car. The air felt strangely quiet. He didn't see or hear any birds, no insects, and even the wind seemed absent. He climbed the steps and knocked on the front door. No answer came. He knocked again. Still nothing. As he turned to leave, he noticed something mounted beside the door. It was a brass plate covered in scratches. Most of the lettering had faded away, but one line remained visible. Visitors are requested not to. David laughed. It sounded like something from an old novel. He returned to his car and drove home. Yet that night he couldn't stop thinking about the house. The next day he searched online property records. Nothing. He couldn't find the address. He couldn't find any ownership records. No photographs. It was as though the house simply did not exist. And over the next few days, curiosity slowly turned into an obsession. Every evening after work he drove past, and the house was always there, silent, waiting, and days turned into weeks. And then one Friday evening, something changed. A light appeared in an upstairs window. For the first time, someone was inside. David parked by the roadside and watched. A vicar moved slowly across the room, not doing anything unusual, just walking from one side of the room to the other, before disappearing from view. Several minutes later, another light appeared on the ground floor. Again, a figure crossed the room. David felt a strange sense of familiarity. Something about the silhouette bothered him. The person seemed familiar, although he could not explain why. The following evening he returned with binoculars. The upstairs light was on again. The vicar stood near the window facing outward. David raised the binoculars and looked more closely. For a moment his mind refused to understand what he was seeing. The person standing inside the house looked exactly like him. The same height, the same build, and even the same dark jacket he was wearing at that very moment. David lowered the binoculars immediately. His heart hammered in his chest. And he looked again. The figure remained at the window, perfectly still, watching him. Then very slowly it raised one hand and tapped 3 times on the glass. David drove away so quickly that gravel sprayed behind the car. And the next morning he returned, determined to prove to himself that none of it had been real. But when he reached the curve in the road, the field was empty. No driveway anymore, no house anymore, nothing. Just grass stretching to the horizon. And for several minutes he stood beside the road staring at the empty field. Then he noticed something lying in the grass near his feet. A small brass plate, weathered and scratched. The same plate that had hung beside the front door. He picked it up and brushed away the dirt. This time he could read the entire message. It said, "Visitors are requested not to return.